We are back on Inside Politics. Our guest today, former Tennessee Governor and Nashville Mayor Phil Bredesen. Governor, when you ran for mayor the first time in 1987, your wife was probably better known in town because of the business that she was running.
She had that cookware store, yeah.
And did it bother you that you had such low? I mean, you had almost no name recognition.
No, I had almost none. You know, it was interesting. I was the CEO of a public company. It was a New York Stock Exchange listed company in town here, but I wasn't part of the kind of downtown business group and so on. Yeah, we did a poll, and my name recognition was 1%. Which is a little daunting.
Which could have been a rounding error.
Which could have been that's well within the error. It could be zero. That's right, well within the error, and so on. So I just thought, well, okay.
Now, you worked on that when you ran in '87. You not only funded a good bit of your own campaign, you funded a secondary campaign in the August election to defeat horse racing. Why did you think that was an important issue to get into? And I think you had a lot to do with having pari-mutuel gambling defeated in Nashville in that race.
I just, I didn't like the idea, and that was not a huge financial commitment compared to running for mayor or something like that. But I had the fellow who was helping me is this fellow Joe Napolitan. He just said, if you're really strongly for this, let's spend a little time and energy on that piece as well. You're in this for the purpose of somehow affecting the public good in the city, and help out with this.
You got in the runoff against Mayor Bill Boner, who became Mayor Bill Boner in that kind of situation. Probably until this most recent mayoral race we had, about the most contentious mayor's race I can remember. It got really heated.
Yeah, it got very heated. And Bill
not
was
partisan, but heated.
No, not partisan, but no. Bill was definitely a take no prisoners type, and for a fellow who'd been running a company and sort of, people respected you for that, and if you got in the newspaper, it was once a year with some little puff piece back in the business section and that sort of thing. A campaign was a very different kind of issue.
Now, since the 1987 election, nobody has been elected mayor of Nashville that was a native. You were the. Did you begin a tradition? Did you, because people before it's like, we don't elect somebody who's not a Nashville person. Did you start a tradition that basically says it's okay to vote for somebody who's not born here?
I hope I sort of made it okay by the way I acted. But every race has its own dynamic. But I think I look back at that, and I think I just I came on the scene, had an interest at a time that Nashville was just ready to change. They were ready to kind of get rid of this East Nashville cabal running everything, and
you called it the courthouse crowd. Where did that phrase come from? Did it occur to you?
I don't know.
Because it's become the lexicon of Nashville politics ever since.
Yeah, well, I don't know, but it's just, I think it was a good combination. It was a city that really was ready to kind of move on, and in a lot of ways, and then you had somebody who was not from that group, and for that reason had some independence, some different ideas. People were just ready for change, and we did it.
Let's move forward to this year's election. All 7 of the candidates I know would have loved to have had your endorsement in August. You endorsed nobody. Why did you sit out that part of it?
There were so many people in the race, and I knew virtually all of them, and I think endorsements have limited appeal.
Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't.
Yeah, and it's like, who cares what the former mayor 4 times ago or whatever it was thinks. But when after it got down to the 2, and I had some pretty strong feelings about just the sort of injection of the partisan politics in the race, and that was what really kind of drew me out.
Yeah, so you acted pretty quickly after the August election to jump in. What's the backstory about how you decided on Megan Barry? Did she call you? Did you call her? Did your people talk?
I certainly know both of them, and in David Fox's, Carrington I know very well, and so there was not that kind of an issue. But I just got, when you started having this stuff of Texas funds putting money into Nashville mayor's races and stuff, I always thought one of the real strengths of the metro government here was its nonpartisan nature, because so many of the issues that that come up in a city, they're economic development and transportation and policing and stuff. They're not the kind of ideological issues. They're not about social insurance or some of the other kinds of issues. I just thought it was very helpful. I mean, had we had partisan elections for the council, for example, I mean, I think back on things like the football team, like some of the building we did downtown.
The downtown library.
It wouldn't have got done in a partisan. It would not have got done because the coalitions we put together were different for all those things. You kind of got to work with 40 people and find the coalitions to get them done, not your party, and then somebody else has automatically got to be against it over here.
You lost in '87. You won in '91, and
Right.
you won that race. Did you decide pretty quickly? Mayor Boner had his difficulties, shall we say. He didn't run for re-election. Had you already decided even before that you were likely to run again in '91?
No, that was a snap decision. I heard on the radio that he was not going to run again.
Yeah, he announced that about a year, maybe a little more than that before.
And that was in the morning. I remember sitting in my office, and I called and talked to Andrea and talked to Joe Napolitan. Those are the two people I talked with. And Joe's advice, which was, if you're going to do it, decide now. I mean, nobody likes this. Well, I'm going to sit around and explore and find this. If you're going to do it, I mean, your whole persona is somebody who will go out and make a decision, and put your name out there.
When you pull up your biography online, one of the first things it talks about in your mayoral administrations are bringing the sports teams to town. You're not known as a big, huge sports fan. I'm sure you didn't expect that to be the case, but are you at peace that is sort of what part of your legacy is going to be?
Yeah, I mean, it's I look at it as all these different things is just kind of putting pieces of the puzzle in place for how you make a sort of modern, dynamic city. And when we first did the arena, which really was more about trying to get an anchor downtown than it was about sports teams, and focused largely on performances to start with. And when we put that stuff together, there was no sports team on the horizon, but we tried to build it so that it would be good for that. And then in the process of going out and trying to and failing several times, as you remember, to bring a team into there, we got hooked up with the idea of an expansion team with the Predators, and got hooked up with Bud Adams and
the Titans kind of fell out of the blue, if you to use a pun. I mean, actually, you had just been reelected, and I remember on election night saying, this next 4 years is going to be for the neighborhoods, and then Bud Adams called.
Yeah, it was. We had all of these false starts with getting a basketball or a hockey team because people were using us as a foil. Okay, so what I did was to put together a term sheet. I called it. It was just like, if you come to the arena, here's the things we can do. Here's how the management will work. Here's the revenue streams you can get, and so on. So when somebody called, you could sort of say, here, look at this. And I've since seen that thing copied. It's obviously a 10th Xerox copy or something of it being passed around. And that's what came into Bud's hands. So his call was basically, if we brought a football team there, would you do these same things, which would require building a stadium? And I said yes. And so we sat down and started working on it.
Let's take a break. Governor Phil Bredesen was governor as well as being mayor of Nashville. We'll talk about his time as governor in our next segment. Stay with us.